Welcome back to the Double Leg. I'm one half of the show, Hey Jai Picks. The other half of the show, the Parlay. Joining me in to break down some Dana White Contender Series Week 2. Let's get it. We are back for another week of Dana White Contender Series after the first week last week. Pretty good performances overall. All five fighters that won got a contract. We'll see if that continues this week with the main event of Al-Sawedy. I'll try to say his name the best as I can, but going up against George Hardwick at 155, lightweight main event there. 4 other fights to get into. What do you think of the card overall?
Yeah, overall, there's a lot of, stylistically, a lot of guys that are going to be, opposite styles of the other. It's going to make for a lot of wrestlers or strikers. So it's going to be an interesting card. Maybe some chance at some dog money again. There always is on Dana White's Contender Series. So should be fun.
3 out of 5 dogs came through, I believe, for week 1. So we'll see if that continues in this one. Not a ton of wide lines, but there is one with the main event. But yeah, like you said, some interesting matchups overall. You're always going to never really know what you're going to get with these fights. So once again, just stay, don't go too hard on these ones. Last week, I think I went up 0.01 units or something. So if you tailed my plays last week, you made a little bit of money.
Got lunch money.
Yeah, just some lunch money. And those plays for Dana White Contender Series, again, will be free to download, and they'll be available in the link in the description. So stay tuned for that. At the Double Leg on the Instagram to get all of those and stay up to date when those get posted. But we're going to go through and give our picks for these fights and break them down for you. We'll start it up with the main event. George Hardwick coming in at minus 315 against Abdul Karim Al-Sawedy, sitting at plus 230, 14-3 for Al-Sawedy, 12-1 for George Hardwick. See the age there, 26 years old, 28 for Sawedy. A little bit taller for George Hardwick, and he is going to be a fan favorite in this one. He's coming in here as a pretty sizable favorite. Maybe that has something to do with it, but he has been very good with Cage Warriors promotion. He's 6-1. He's been on a 8 fight win streak, I believe. So, I mean, he hasn't lost since 2019. He's been looking pretty good there. Also fought in Bellator before, and he's coming in here. They want a Contender Series, looking to get a win and hopefully get a contract. What are you thinking in this one?
Yeah, I think overall, this is probably set up for George Hardwick to win. When you look at his opponent, Al-Sawedy, he's smaller in a lot of his fights. He's been knocked out 2 or 3 times in the very first round of some of his fights. So against strikers, he obviously struggles. If he can't get takedowns, I think this is going to be all Hardwick. I was kind of talking to you before this, though. I don't necessarily see what everybody else sees in George Hardwick. I mean, everybody's talking, he's like this killer, unbeatable, Cage Warriors champion, on and on. But, he's like solid on the feet. He, does get a lot of finishes and stuff, but he's not super explosive or aggressive or anything. He's just real technical and smooth with it. But yeah, here, this is a bad matchup stylistically for him, but he does have good takedown defense, and I think it's going to be a good enough to stuff it against Al-Sawedy. And ultimately, kind of pick your round. Which round do you think he's going to get the finish in? Because I do think that's what ends up happening.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think Hardwick may be a little bit too big of a favorite in this one, but either way, it looks like it's a good matchup for him. And maybe they're going to use him to use the Contender Series viewership or in some way, just kind of like they did with Bo Nickel. But yeah, I mean, like I said, 8 fight win streak in Cage Warriors. It's kind of crazy that he hasn't gotten an opportunity as of yet. Maybe that's just because the lightweight division is so deep. But George Hardwick going to come in with a stand-up game. I think it's a pretty fan-friendly type of style that he fights with. Just going to walk you down and want to throw hands with you. He's got a really nice body shot with that lead left hook. And I could honestly see him landing that a good amount of times here with Al-Sawedy, who is going to want to take you down most likely. Been knocked out 3 times. Sawedy is, I I just watch his fights. I don't see like anything crazy on the feet. Obviously, 5'7". He's not too long, and he's probably going to be outmatched with the striking. So I would look for him to get a takedown more times than not. If you're a grappler and you're coming on the Contender Series, you better be a finisher with that grappling. In this case, I don't think he's going to want to go in there and take down Hardwick and just lay on him for 3 rounds. So it's a bad matchup in my opinion. Trains out of Fortis MMA though in Texas, so it's a good camp, and he's the number 1 ranked fighter or lightweight out of Texas, so he's got that behind him. Interesting play to take him as a dog here, considering what we saw last week. But I do think George Hardwick gets the win. A little chalky, though, for my liking. A light heavyweight bout. We got Ibu Aslan sitting at -145 against Paulo Renato Jr., coming in at +115. Aslan, 11-1 in his professional career. Renato Jr., 12-2, both been 4-1 in the last 5. And if you notice, Aslan, 6'3", looks like he would fill out light heavyweight pretty well. Renato Jr., 6 foot. Not as quite shredded as Ibu Aslan, but he did fight at heavyweight last year on the Contender Series and lost to Jamal Pogues, our buddy Jamal Pogues. He lost a decision there and then goes out and gets a first-round KO win against the 20-25 Ricardo Silva. Then comes back and gets another first-round KO win against a 6-5 Juicer Newman. He's getting another shot here down at light heavyweight against Ibu Aslan, who has gotten all of his wins by KO, 11 of his wins, which is all of them, by KO. His only loss is by submission, came in the second round. So he's a finisher. Paulo Renato used to fight at heavyweight, or at least tried out last year at heavyweight, coming in here at light heavyweight. We'll see if he can get it done his second time in the Contender Series. What do you think?
Yeah, we'll see if he looks better in this fight than indeed against Pogues. I mean, he didn't look terrible at times against Pogues, but we've seen Pogues since then, and he's just not a real impressive fighter at all. He's got the jab, and that's about it. And Renato Jr. wasn't really able to do much with it. I don't know if this fight's going to last long. I mean, you look at Ibu, and he's got these super powerful kicks. He has been kind of beating cans too, but he did lose to Anton Turkalj, which that doesn't age the best, but it also doesn't age terribly. I mean, it's a dude who's made it to the UFC, so it's a decent level of competition. And he was winning that fight on the feet. I thought he was more aggressive and then ended up getting taken down. But I just think, his aggressiveness, his power, striking, he has that kind of killer instinct where he's going to go out and try to finish fights. I think it's going to be way better off than Renato Jr. here. Like from what we saw from Renato, I guess, in his last time out, I'm going to pick Ibu Aslan to get the finish. I do think he wins this fight.
Yeah, it's tough to pick anybody that has lost to Jamal Pogues at this point, if I'm being honest. But I will say this, Renato Jr., I mean, you could tell he just wasn't a heavyweight at that point. Like, even Jamal Pogues was a light heavyweight that moved up to heavyweight, and he looked like so much bigger than Renato Jr. So I'm interested to see how he looks against Ibu Aslan. But in this one, like you said, like, Aslan's been crushing cans, but even against Anton Turkalj, who, I mean, his only fight in Brave was against Anton Turkalj, he lost. So, I mean, once he went out of the promotions where he could just crush cans, he lost. But if you watch the fight, he was winning the fight up until he got submitted. So there's that he could take. But, I mean, maybe from a live perspective, you go, if you like Renato, just wait after the first round.
Exactly.
That's how Aslan's going to look and when he's going to look his best. I'm interested to see this one. I don't know. I mean, Aslan, I would say Aslan gets the win, but then Renato, he's never been knocked out. So he's got that. Maybe he's just super durable. Maybe he can, clinch him up, wear on him a little bit, get that energy out of him from the jump. For the pick, though, I'm going to go with Ibu Aslan. A featherweight bout here. Amil coming in at -165 against Emrah Sonmez, sitting at +130. Amil, undefeated, 7-0. And Emrah Sonmez coming in at 14-4, 3-2 in his last 5. He most recently lost in Cage Warriors. That was back in 2021. He got finished by a rear naked choke in the second round. That was down at bantamweight. That was one of his few fights that he's done at bantamweight. Looks like he aborted that mission and he's going back up to featherweight. That's where his last 3 fights have been. That's where his last 3 wins have been. 2 of them have come inside the distance. 1 decision his last time out. Haider Amil. Watching this guy, Haider Amil, you can tell this guy is all action. He's going to come pressure you early and might not work out for him well down the road, especially later in the fights, because that pace that he puts on you can tend to wear him out. And you saw that in the Devontae Sewell fight. Couldn't get him out of there early. And then you go to rounds 2 and round 3, and it turns into a dogfight. He wins by split decision. It looks like he's big friends with Gilbert Melendez. Watching that fight with Devontae Sewell, Gilbert Melendez was one of the commentators, and he was like super biased to Haider Amil, and everyone was like, trying to get him back into the commentator role. But he's part of that Diaz, Melendez, Kron Gracie type family, so the cloth that they're cut from. I mean, just tough dudes. He's 33 years old. It's kind of do or die for him in this spot. 5'8" compared to Emra Sonmez's 5'10". He might look a little shorter and a little bit outsized because Emra's a pretty big dude, even though he tried to make 135. Emra is going to go for those takedowns. I think it comes down to who can outlast, and just based off the toughness, like I think I got to go Haider Amil because Emra himself has looked like he could gas as well. So I think Haider Amil, I mean, he's the favorite, but I think this is kind of like a dogfight type of fight. I think that's just what he's going to get into. And in this one, I think he comes out with the victory. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it all just comes down to the takedown defense for Haider, because if he can stuff the takedowns on the feet, he's going to win the fight. I mean, he comes out hot, he's aggressive, and then sometimes it seems like he fades towards the middle or into the fights. Just from use, I mean, he's so explosive, he burns hot. And then you got Sonmez on the other hand, which you watch some of his fights, and he's got that boring style that people don't enjoy watching, with the chain wrestling, trying to get takedowns. He's going to try to take him down, control him, land ground and pound, and win fights that way. I mean, he's finished fights that way before. So, I mean, that's going to be his game plan. I always like the dudes on the feet who are aggressive in the Contender Series. It seems like those are the guys that either find that big finish they need to propel their career in the early rounds, or the dude trying to wrestle him gets tired and you can find a knockout somewhere in the middle of the end of the fight. I'm going to go with Amil here too. I think he's probably the better all-around fighter. He's more explosive and aggressive. And, if I'm going to put my money on somebody, I want somebody who's going to go out there and try to finish the fight, and that's going to be Haider Amil.
I think he's got a much better fan-friendly type of fight for Dana White. For a Dana White Contender Series fight, it's definitely Amil as far as that goes. Strawweight bout here, Eduarda Moura sitting at -140 against Janina Silva, sitting at +110. Both ladies undefeated. There's not a lot out there for either of these girls. I mean, you look and try to find some tape, you're not going to find much. The only thing I could find was really Janina Silva in the LFA, and that fight didn't really tell me too much. Based off of that, was like Janina Silva she's got some decent stand up. I mean, she's 5'1" compared to Moura's 5'6". She's probably going to look a little bit shorter, a little bit undersized, but she's a strong girl. And the striking looked fairly crisp. I will say that. I mean, for her height, compared to other strawweights, it looked pretty good. She was able to find the spots. She was a -400 favorite in her only fight in the LFA. That was her last one back in November of 2022. As for Eduarda Moura, like, I couldn't find any tape out there. I just looked at basically her Instagram, see what she likes to fight like. Couldn't really find much on that, but I don't know. What are you looking at on this one?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for the reason you just said. Like, there's not a lot out there, especially for Eduarda. And, what I kind of gather is that she's kind of wrestling heavy. She's a grappler. She does have 3 knockouts and 4 submissions. So that tells you she's got some kind of a ground game at least. And that's where she's getting all of her wins. Yeah, I guess we'll see what she looks like on the feet, because sometimes in these women's MMA fight, like, girls can't get takedowns as easy. You're going to go up against Silva, who is 5'1". She's got a low base. She's going to be hard to get, up under and really take her down, especially if she's stronger. And on the feet, I think it is going to be Silva. Like everything seems to point towards Silva being the girl that's going to be aggressive and powerful on the feet, and then Eduarda, being the one who might take over on the ground. It's just it seems like another striker versus wrestler matchup. And I'm sticking with my strikers this week. I think Silva could get it done. I like the aggressiveness you do see at times in her little film that you can find. And she does have power for women's MMA. The only thing, man, being 5'1" does scare me a little bit. Like I hope they didn't get the numbers wrong, and then we go into the fight on Tuesday and she's like 5 foot, and then Eduarda's like 5'7", 5'6", something ridiculous. But I mean, look at girls like Denise Gomes, short, hits hard, Contender Series alum. Hopefully we get one of those type of girls here.
Yeah, I just look at this one like Moura's probably going to look a little bit bigger in there, and it looks like she's pretty strong. I don't know how the skills are because I can't really watch her fight. But then Janeda Silva, just watching her fight, she's a minus 400 favorite. I didn't see anything that I was like super impressed by. So then I got to look at this one and be like, I don't know. I'm going to go with Eduarda Moura, but like not going to sugarcoat it whatsoever. It's not like a confident play by any means. There's just not too much to go off of for either of these fighters. Bantamweight bout here. This should be a good one. Cameron Smotherman coming in at minus 145 against, I don't even know how to say that, but I'm going to say Karolampis Grigoriou, who is coming in at plus 115. Smotherman 8-3. All 11 of his fights have come in Fury FC. As for Grigoriou, 31 years old for him. I believe Smotherman's about 25, 26. But it's not like confirmed on the Tapology. For Grigoriou, look at his last performances. He's got a win over Chris Dissanel his last time out back in February. He got a round 5 leg kick TKO. And the one before that, he got a round 2 TKO against Joey Cristosomo. Cristosomo Jr. was 2-5. Dissanel was 6-5. So, I mean, not fighting. I mean, neither guy is really going to be fighting the greatest of competition. But in this one, I look at it like Smotherman probably has a little bit better hands. Grigoriou, he just seems like a tougher type of guy. He'll go for the grappling here and there. Probably the more well-rounded fighter in this spot. He's just going to be a tough out. I mean, he's got those leg kicks. He's very well-rounded. He's going to mix up with the body kick, the hands, and mixing the takedowns. He has a loss to Christian Rodriguez, who is in the UFC now. So, I mean, he's got at least some level of UFC experience against a guy in the cage. For Smotherman, clean hands. I would probably chalk him up to just a striker. The takedown defense is okay. But you look at the guys he's fighting, again, it's like they don't push him that much. I mean, he's fought a guy 13-5. How good is that? I don't really know. I mean, 8-6. You're looking at the way he wins. Got a great left hand. The lead left hook knocked out a guy clean with that one. And you can just tell if he hits you, it's not going to feel good. So in this one, it's a tough one. I mean, it's a really good fight. I think it'll be one of the better fights on the card. What are you thinking on this one?
Yeah, I think Grigoriou, he's got like more of like an imposing figure. Like he's got a big frame, and he does come out of the gate, and he throws those leg kicks, and he really tries to set the tone with kicks like that. And he doesn't move in and out real well. Like he just kind of inches forward, and then gets in range and throws these shots, throws these leg and body kicks until he can just unload on you. And I think he could get in trouble a little bit against Smotherman here because, he is going to be the better striker than Grigoriou on the feet, all around. They're both kind of pressure fighters. They're both going to come forward regardless. It's just going to be who can take each other's shots, in my opinion. I do like the factor that Grigoriou does have the wrestling in the back pocket in case he gets in some trouble here. He gets too much pressure on him and he's back against the cage. Maybe he can look to hold on, reverse position, and work for a takedown along the cage or something. But overall, man, it's kind of a good matchup. Like just on paper and like watching these two, it has potential to be fun on the feet in some of these rounds. I think both guys are tough as well. So, regardless of the power striking and the good striking we're going to see, hopefully it lasts a little bit longer. We get a good show. But, man, I want to take the guy that does have wrestling in the back pocket, but something's telling me to take Smotherman here. I think Smotherman is more of what the UFC is looking for. He's younger, 25-ish, up against Grigoriou, who's 30 or in his 30s. I mean, the UFC is not looking to sign a lot of guys in their 30s, for the first time. So, man, for that reason, I'm going to take Smotherman. I think he's got more to offer all around on the feet, and I think that's where this fight takes place.
I'm with you. Smotherman trains with the likes of like Matt Schnell, Adrian Yanez, Rafian Stotts in Texas. So a good camp. He's been getting some good work there. He's had 11 fights in the past not even 2.5 years. So, I mean, he's been very active. I like that as well. So I just think he comes in here, probably just puts on some very flashy striking, and Grigoriou could mix in the takedowns. But, I mean, like we said, I mean, that's just not really what Dana White wants to see. And that's just kind of the style that's not really going to get you noticed. So I think the style for the Contender Series suits Smotherman a little bit more. We saw it last week with Peyton Talbot, like striking type of fighter is going to, I don't want to say always prevail, but that's just, more suited to what's going on here. I think Smotherman a little bit more talented at this spot too. So I'm going to take him.
Yeah.
And those are the picks for Dana White Contender Series week 2. All 5 fights will be starting 7 p.m. Eastern, and then right after that, we get the tough finale for. We get to find out who's going to be fighting for UFC 292. And if you're new to the YouTube channel here, hit the subscription button while you're at it. But we'll be coming to you with the UFC 292 preview as well. But anything else on the Contender Series this week?
Just unpredictable, man. If you're betting on it, be careful, be safe, and taking all dogs isn't the worst thing in the world, as what we've learned in the last year, basically. But it's always the time that I want to go do that. It's all the favorites that win. So you got to pick your spots.
Yeah, once again, if you want the bets, we'll have those available for you probably Monday night or Tuesday morning, available for instant download using the link in the description, or just follow along on the Instagram at the Double Leg, at HeyJaiPicks on the medias. For me, where can they find you?
All social medias at the Parlay MMA.
All right, so then we'll see you in the preview for UFC 292. Double Leg signing out.